Welcome, everybody. Joe Tarnowski with ECRM here, and I have with me today Brian Ferrier from Giant Eagle. He's the merchandising manager for candy, and he just participated in our candy Easter and Valentine's Day planning virtual session. So, Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me, Joe. It's been a pleasure to participate, and obviously humbled to be here. So thank you.
Before we get into the talk about the virtual session experience itself, for those five people who don't know what Giant Eagle is, can you give a brief overview?
Giant Eagle is a grocery store chain based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we operate supermarket and convenience locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and Indiana.
So with this whole pandemic, we've all had to change the way we do things. And how has your role, as a buyer, been impacted by the pandemic and the lockdown and all that?
Yeah, I think the CPG community and obviously ECRM and your folks included, obviously a very close niche community, and I think we tend to enjoy heading out to food shows, and we tend to enjoy meeting with our vendor partners. And there's something about just being in a room with someone or being in a facility where that people interaction certainly I think that's how I grew up and what I know, and I think it's kind of forced us to take a step back and think about what is this going to look like over the course of the next number of weeks and even months. And I think it's really forced us to change and adapt in the way where I find ourselves honestly being more effective. I think the team collectively has honestly become more effective in a lot of cases. Specifically, if you want to talk about seasonal planning and what the ECRM team has been able to do for my seasonal planning process, but ultimately the efficiency of being able to take what normally takes what I'll call 5 to 7 business days down to 9 hours and have those meetings be extremely productive and get the right follow-ups and start having the right conversations, that's going to make for planning these seasons certainly more efficient. As much as I would love to get together with everyone and touch and feel, again, there's something about being present and touching and feeling things, but if we can't be there, I'm confident that between teleworking and platforms like this, that we're in good hands.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I've been speaking to a lot of retailers and suppliers who have made this pivot, and that's the one thing I keep hearing. Obviously, yes, in relation to our virtual sessions, but also just in other ways too, that switching to virtual has just boosted efficiencies and and effectiveness in their day to day once they've all adapted and gotten used to using the technology. And it seems you're pretty well adapted to it. You got the headset going, you got very strong Wi-Fi, so you're ahead of the game there. So, what led you to your decision? When you found out about our virtual session, what led you to deciding to jump in?
I'm be remorse if I said that things were the same that they were the last time we planned a season, and I think that's where forcing ourselves to take a step back and think about how we're going to do this and how we're going to be more efficient. I couldn't see a better way to ultimately have everything come together in a more productive way, and I think that's where leveraging the services, the team that you guys have to ultimately kind of help be that conduit between a successful season certainly is a huge advantage to me, and I think again allows me to really reallocate my time in spending time on those things that are more strategy based. So how are we going to approach the season, pricing, promotions, allocations, really being strategic around from getting it to point A to point B. Those where, that's where I think our time is better well spent. And being able to leverage, the platform to do those things certainly has been an advantage, I think, so far for Easter and Valentine's Day. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear it. And can you tell us, the actual prep work, right? Because we went into this knowing that we're going to have a variety of skill levels as far as technical savvy, from the advanced to the, novice people who are not familiar with the technology, all different types of systems and Wi-Fi, and again, it's going to be a mix. How did our team work with you before the virtual session to make sure that you were ready to go?
Yeah, and I think, Joe, that's a great question. And we have, what we refer to as going the extra mile at Giant Eagle. And I think vast comparison, obviously, to the folks at ECRM when putting together this, virtual presentations and aligning all of the vendors and getting everything prepared almost exactly to our liking. And when I say almost, that's just because I think as we all continue to go and learn through this, there's things that I even realized that, the team probably could have done that I didn't ask them to do. And I think that's where, as we continue to go through more and more of these, we're going to find ourselves becoming more efficient every time. And I think in hindsight, being more productive, building better strategic plans, and ultimately still having some fun. So that's where, I think you're probably going to ask me, how do you see these progress over time? And I think that's where you still got to have fun. So I think the really unique part about this as well is it kind of puts everyone at parity. So now, a smaller brand versus a larger brand, it puts everyone at parity and puts everyone, I think, in a position where you have your 10 minutes, your 20 minutes, your 30 minutes. And I want to encourage, especially the supplier community, this is your time to kind of give it your all, and let me walk away from this, accomplishing exactly what you want me to know. So I certainly, encourage folks to have fun with this too. And again, just because, we're not standing next to each other doesn't mean that, by any means that we're not still bonded together and we don't have the same goals and mission to, ultimately put ourselves in the best position.
Yep, I agree. And about the fun part, I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but we do have things coming up starting in mid-July that are in development right now towards that end to add a little of the fun that we usually have in person to these things. And we also, I think that people are starting to realize that you can get a lot of the elements of the in-person conversation and feel through virtual. Obviously, there's nothing like being right across the table physically from somebody and having a conversation. But, we want to make it as close as possible to that virtually, as close as you could get in this situation,
You guys have done just that. You knocked it out of the park, and I think that's where you talk about ease. And I could tell you that almost anyone could log onto this platform and ultimately be able to use it. So I think from ease and function, you guys absolutely accomplished that.
Awesome. Well, speaking of that, what was the prep work like that you did with our team as far as getting set up, beforehand? How did you work with our guys to do that?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that, and again, this is actually what would be my first seasonal planning of Easter and Valentine's Day. So I've planned other seasons before in a non-virtual way, and to now be planning seasons virtually, I've kind of seen both sides. And I think the thing with the virtual side, from the preparation perspective, the team took care of everything. Very accommodating, absolutely went above and beyond to make sure that deadlines were met and far exceeded. And ultimately, that information is going to empower us to be able to successfully execute a season. I could honestly say that I never realized how difficult, in a lot of ways, it is to actually get a product to the shelf. That case of, candy canes, just getting it there, there's a lot of legwork that goes in there. So the fact that, your folks are kind of there to pitch in and help us with this is a huge help.
Cool. And what about the technical side and, making sure that everything that you had technically worked? Did you do a test run with our team and all that?
Yeah, they reached out prior to, we had a little test run, and again, made sure that I was comfortable, took the time to show me the portal, all the different offerings in regards to taking notes, selecting products. And again, it's really forcing us to think about how we gather all this information and how we recap it at the end of the season. And I'm excited again to continue to look at ways and different ways to kind of adapt to this new normal.
Did you use all the tools that were there? You know, the notes, the ratings, the follow-ups?
Yeah, so I experimented a little bit, and to be completely honest, I think again back to, that's someone's 10 minutes, or that's that, someone's
Mhm.
20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't want to kind of prohibit anyone from just having my full attention. So
Mhm.
definitely found myself typing some brief notes, but from a follow up perspective, I think that's where putting the onus kind of on the supplier to really make sure the things that we discussed are kind of in a good spot, and
Mhm.
could expect those follow-ups over the course of the next couple weeks.
And how many meetings did you have during that time?
You know what? I didn't count them, but if I had to guess, I would say about 20. So it was about 2 days. Well,
Okay.
it was 2 days, afternoon sessions. So
Mhm.
that was perfect again for my schedule. Just being able to, participate in the day-to-day activities during the day for non-seasonal planning, and then kind of pivoting to, it was a nice afternoon and a great way to end the day.
Well, one of the things we were realizing is we're finding that it's a lot easier for retailers to fit into their schedules because it's not like you're traveling to this our in-person session, and then you're there all day, and then you have the evening activities. Then you got to travel back, dig out from all your emails, and then start doing your follow-ups. You can literally just start getting on your follow-ups as soon as you shut down the window.
Yeah, and you've alluded to it. There is a lot of work and a lot of follow-ups, and although shows are great and we love seeing everyone, this is kind of having this hybrid option. I think will be very valuable to us moving forward.
What's an ideal virtual supplier presentation for you? In terms of their presentation style, maybe their background, slides, what elements do you like seeing?
Yeah, and I think everyone's different, so I don't want folks to take this as kind of real black and white and cut and
Hmm.
dry. But my biggest challenge for folks is just be different, be unique. And again, talking about putting everyone at parity, no matter if you're the smallest manufacturer or the largest. If you just focus on that 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes as I've never met this person before, and I'm going to almost put something together that kind of tells the story and really puts together a wow factor.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think just having good, productive discussion around strategy also is very advantageous. You kind of brought up slides. I think with slides, more and more are kind of going to become, you know, look at that one page, that two page, that three page. But if you only had 3 pages and you ran out of pages after that, what would you put on those? And that's going to help manage the time, I think, a little bit better too. Because I think there's obviously plenty of time to follow up afterwards. So really accomplishing in that time period is ultimately really for the supplier, the manufacturer to really sell themselves on, here's what we're thinking for the season, here's our strategy, here's our approach. And I want to walk away from those knowing that, wow, they really want to work with Giant Eagle and they really want to partner. And ultimately, I take comfort in that, knowing that folks want to partner with us. And it was actually very humbling. I had several suppliers and manufacturers really kind of take a minute to say, this is the meeting that I was looking forward to all day. And immediately it set me up to say, I'm sure you told that to the last retailer that you talked to. But no, the excitement from folks just to see Giant Eagle come up on as an opportunity to meet and have conversation, that was really reassuring. And I think again, there's a lot to come of just building these relationships, and anything that a supplier could do to really make it feel different, like we're not sitting in a conference room, like we're not reading off slides, will, in my opinion, continue to get those opportunities and be more successful as we work through this.
I'm a big fan of like passion myself too. It's like you said, you know, what are they gonna do for you, and telling their story and really believing what they have and how they can make a difference for you. And sometimes you can't do that with a slide deck. I mean, sure, the numbers are important, but some of the presentations that I've seen that were very memorable, you could just see and feel through the screen that this person, this is their life. This is, and that they're going to do anything that they can to really make you a success. And I think it comes through. I think people don't realize how much of that can come through on the screen, if they do it.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing I'll add is certainly, as we continue to navigate through this, prioritizing opportunities, I think, are a huge, huge, huge part of being effective. So
Hmm.
I know a lot of folks have, in a lot of cases, a breadth of assortment, and from different sizes to different pack types. And although I think in a perfect world we would have endless shelves and be able to offer a full assortment, um, we have to really take a step back and say, let's pick a couple opportunities that we not only feel really good about, but we know that we can execute and we know that we could build a good plan around. And let's focus on those. That sort of tail end will
Hmm.
kind of work itself out, I think, if we prioritize these larger opportunities and just trying to build a bigger overall strategy.
Definitely. I mean, we're trying to encourage that. That's why we limit the number of products they can have to 3 that's on there, because you could always go into their Rangery page and see their full breadth of offerings whenever you want. So, it's all about really making it what's relevant for that buyer across from them at that moment. Um, so moving forward, where do you see virtual's role as we kind of get out of this pandemic thing and get, ultimately back to normal life? Where do you see virtual still playing a role?
Joe's asking me to get out my crystal ball here.
Yes, I am.
I think, look, I think the one thing that we all know are things are going to continue to be different to some extent, and that should not make us uncomfortable by any means. No matter who you are, where you come from, no one should be uncomfortable, jumping on a virtual meeting. I think folks, you know, this is the new normal for now, and the more that we can adapt, and I think just kind of encourage folks to really take the moment and the time to be more productive and more effective, that we're actually gonna find some time to do things, that one thing on your list that you always keep moving down the list. You're going to be able to do those things now, and ultimately, there's just so much upside to being able to connect with someone in seconds,
Mhm.
rather than jumping on a flight or having folks walking through the office. So I think, again, all of our organizations, whether it be specifically a Giant Eagle or on the CPG side, we just have to continue to care about our team members, all of us together, and just put everyone in the best position to possible to stay safe. And I think for now, this is absolutely the new normal, and look forward to seeing everyone somewhere someday. Hoping it's sooner rather than later, but we'll get there. But until then, we'll all navigate through this together and band together like we have the last several weeks.
That's right. I mean, you guys are the front line. You guys are the new heroes. So,
Yeah, well, speaking of
yeah.
hero, I mean, I am not the hero, so I just first and foremost want folks to. I'd be remorse if I didn't take a moment to thank our friends and family at retail. Those are the heroes and the folks that have been there for our neighborhoods, there for our communities, and still continue to be there. And I think everyone that has put themselves in a position to be there for the community definitely deserves to be recognized. And I think, again, I can't give my thanks, and either whether as a customer or a proud team member, for what they've been able to accomplish, and how they've been able to help us get through this. So it's really reassuring to know that folks are always going to need food, but it's really reassuring to know that we were able to be a very pivotal part of the communities we serve. So very fortunate to be a part of that, and super proud of the team for banding together.
Well, we sure are all thankful for it and all the work that you and the Giant Eagle team put into that, especially our guys in Solon who are in one of your
There you
markets.
go. That's right.
So, and then like I said earlier before the call, I visit all the time when I'm there. So, but yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to eventually getting together with you in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks for having me. I look forward to participating again in the future. And again, until next time, right?
All right, thanks.
Thanks.